Well, g'day everybody. If you've seen my last video, you'll know that I've got to fit the adjustable Nolathane Panhard rod to the back of this car. So this is not a how-to video because, you know, it's 2 bolts. I mean, just follow the directions you got with the sway bar. Panhard rod. I keep calling it a sway bar for some reason because my brain's a bit screwed. Too much work and not enough holiday time. Yeah, just follow the directions that come with your Panhard rod. You can't go wrong. They're pretty concise directions. Yeah, so I'm going to show a bit of it, but not all of it. Let's get to it. I actually believe this mount for the Panhard is bent. I really doubt it's supposed to look like that, but I'm not really concerned because if I was, I'd take it to a panel beater and have it straightened out. And plus the adjustable Panhard rod, as long as it installs correctly, should take care of that. This is a comparison between the standard Panhard rod that comes with the car from General Motors Holden and the Nolathane equivalent. This Nolathane sway bar, if I can get my terminology right, and it's what being under a car does to you too, when you're under the car too much. The Panhard rod, coloured red, is the Nolathane brand one. It is in the unadjusted state, and I am going to adjust the adjustable Panhard rod the same length as the standard Panhard rod at the moment because it has to be aligned and I don't have the equipment to do it correctly. One thing to note is this is a really thick walled tubing. It is about double the weight of this standard Panhard rod, which is neither here nor there, but it means it's a lot less likely to bend, even though this standard one's not bent. The mount on the body is definitely bent. It has not damaged the bush in the end of this, and I'm going to straighten it using the shifter slightly because it's not really bent very much. And within the next few months I might actually pay a panel shop to have it straightened professionally so it looks totally the way it should. The bar being adjustable will eliminate any problems from the bent body mount. It's not bent. It's bent in the fore and aft direction, not the side to side direction, so it won't actually make a difference as long as it doesn't damage the bush in the sway bar. Forgive me everyone, Panhard rod. But the bushes in this Panhard, I don't know if they're original or not, but they're certainly worn and they're certainly allowing. It's full of dirt. Like, you probably can't see that, but it's full of dirt, so it's obviously not going to do its job very well. And it's the same with this. It's not very happy. It's all shitty and sad. So I'll get under there and I'll straighten the mount on the body with the shifter as best I can. I'm only aiming to create more parallel sides. They're just a bit crunched in a bit. So someone's run over a rock or God knows what, you know, it's had a hard life, so there's no damage that would even be that expensive to fix because a panel beater wouldn't take very long to fix it, and being something you don't have to look at, well, as long as it's straight enough to do its job correctly, which it obviously has been because it's been for front end alignments and they've never said it was out. So anyway, showing you how I adjusted the Panhard rod. I got my King Chrome medium extension, which seems to fit fairly neatly in through these 2 bushes. And they have a right hand thread and a left hand thread, so that's how the adjusters work. And I got the chassis mounting bolt and stuck it through the middle of these 2 bushes. So it's probably not millimetre bloody dead perfect, but I'll tell you what, I reckon it'll do if I shove this shifter under the camera slightly. You know, there's probably not a lot of point. Yeah, so you just get it to sit the best you can. A long bar would be better than this bolt, but I think it'll probably do. Alright, so that's the first stage of the job. I don't think it's not absolutely perfect. It's important to get it pretty good. Like it's what I will do is remove this bolt, which is a nice sliding fit, and I'll just have a look through the two crush tubes, if you like. I'll just make sure they line up pretty well. This Nolathane bar could do with being a touch longer. It's going the other way actually. So, you know, take your time. Yeah, I've gone the wrong way. Take your time. Just make sure you got it right, because it's pretty important. The car won't handle very well if it's wrong. And like I said, you know, you can stuff around with tape measures, but just pay for an alignment. Just pay for an alignment. I'm not going to bore you guys with the process. I've explained it, so... Well, in case you're not sure of what to do, you get a thing of grease, which is the Nolathane bush grease, which I think is probably just LMM grease. It doesn't actually tell you. Oh yeah, there you go. It's an LM based grease. There you go, it says it right on there if you can see that. No, it's not going to focus. So you could probably just use LMM grease, okay? You gotta get that crush tube out of the middle of that bush. I'm going to do that, then I'm going to start filming again. Having got the crush tube out of the Nolathane bush, I like to apply a bit of grease, you know, sort of yay much, to the crush tube and to the internal bore of the bush. These bushes, yeah, drop it in the dirt. Yeah, if you do that and get it all dirty, you've got to sort of start again, because you can't have dirt in there obviously, otherwise it'll just damage the bush. So start out with a clean crush tube. Don't include any bits of dirt and shit. Fairly generously apply the grease. Don't drop it in the dirt. So that's probably what you should end up with, something like that. I like to sort of put that aside somewhere where it can't get dirty. In this case I'm just going to hold it. You should be putting plenty of grease in the bore. You also have to lubricate the faces too, by the way. Do not lubricate the outer circumference of the bush. Okay? I'm not going to repeat myself. If you want to know what I said just then, rewind the video and watch it again. Follow the instructions that comes with the bush. Now, just once the crush tube's all nice and lubed up, just sort of push it in. You might have to get something and tap it in gently. I don't damage the crush tube. It sort of gets hung up, but I really prefer to use a screwdriver sort of like that, just to avoid damaging the crush tube, because it'll make getting it back together a whole lot harder. So you don't want to disassemble it while you're doing it, by the way, accidentally. So you should arrive at something that looks like that. It's fairly well lubed up on the faces of this bush. The other end without the crush tube, that just goes on the actual diff itself. It's got like a you know, a tube sticking out. So yeah, you just assemble it thusly. When you're finished, you should have something like this. So obviously that's the diff housing. Follow it across. That's the body mount, if I can kill the light from there maybe. The mount on the body end is slightly bent. I just sort of shoved the camera. Get rid of that light maybe. You can see the body mount's just slightly bent, but it's really not bent much. I've straightened it out a little bit at the bush end. I am going to have this mount straightened, although it's not critical. It would only really matter if it was damaging the bush. That's got a bit of a kink there. So I am going to have it fixed, but right now it's not really a problem. Someone's just hit something, and it's bent the outer braces. Don't forget to tighten the lock nuts. That's a left-hand thread. and the one closest to the diff is just normal right hand thread. So make sure you double check everything. If you've got your torque wrench handy and enough space to work under the car, torque it up and make sure it's right. If you haven't, just tighten it firmly, don't wring the shit out of it. I mean, you should be looking at the torque specs to give you an idea of how tight to do these fasteners, because the fact is you should eventually develop a sense, feel how tight you're doing stuff. So don't just wring the crap out of it and don't leave it loose. Just make sure you tighten it enough, because especially this adjustment, if you don't tighten those lock nuts up, then that'll eventually just come undone and it could cause you to crash and it could kill you. So don't take it lightly. What you're doing here is dangerous. It's as dangerous as electricity and work with gas and anything like that. So treat it with respect. If you're not going to treat it with respect, then pay somebody that will, because otherwise, I see far too many people modify stuff and end up not doing it correctly and nearly killing their family. So make sure you do it right. I can't stress that enough. Probably going to be hard to see, but I'm going to zoom this camera in and show you guys this Panhard rod that I just pulled from the car. It's actually bent, so maybe all these marks here, they're not just marks, they're actually impacts from rocks and God knows what else. So I'm going to zoom this in the best I can. Not sure how well this is going to work, because I've never tried this with a camera like this before. Right, well, I'm going to show you guys the bend in the Panhard. You can sort of see it already, but it's not supposed to be like this, okay? So it just sort of shows you reasonably well. So the gap's actually changed. Maybe I could zoom that in slightly more. So, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't matter if the side of the bin was bent or not, because if I just look along it, it's actually bent by maybe half an inch. There's a decent quarter to half an inch bend in that. I'm going to say about 10 to 15 mil. So obviously it's going to not work well, because that's going to change the effective length of the Panhard rod slightly. It might only be a mil or two, but hey, a mil's a mil. When it comes to suspension, that's a truckload of clearance. That's a huge amount to be out by. I'm definitely going to get that body mount straightened up. These bushes, you can't really tell, but they're not that great. So any movement or deviation from it being correct is going to cause the car to handle poorly. If the bushes are significantly worn, the diff will move side to side in the body, and that'll cause the car to sort of wander. When you're just going down the road dead straight, the car just won't want to track straight. It'll tend to wander a bit. So if your car's a bit wandery and it's got a live rear axle, maybe your Panhard rod bushes are stuffed. And maybe, just maybe, if you got a couple of $100 aside, it wouldn't hurt to put a decent solid one on there. There's nothing wrong with the OEM Panhard rod, but the Nolathane unit's better. What can I say? Nice heavy unit that's not going to bend easy. And by the way, if it actually does bend slightly, that could increase the chances of it bending a lot more, because once you deviate from a dead straight piece of tube, you're actually weakening it, because you're starting to bend. So I'd be very wary of that. You should inspect every component that makes up the suspension, steering and driveline of your car, and brakes, because never take anything for granted, and that includes that bits on a 20-year-old car are straight.